Hello, my name is Jon Bernard, Superintendent of Schools in North Reading. I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of Inside NRPS, and our guest today is Detective Scott Tilton of the North Reading Police Department. Scott, welcome to our show.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me here.
It's very good to have you, Scott. So Scott, as some of you may know, has been a longtime police officer in North Reading and has served in a number of roles. He has been the safety officer in North Reading, has been a detective, and his newest role is as our school resource officer serving the 5 schools in the North Reading Public Schools District. So I've asked Scott here today to talk with us a little bit about his new role and to share with the community some of his experiences so far to date. And Scott, it's a pleasure to have you, and it might be nice for you to just maybe introduce yourself to the community and talk a little bit about your history with the North Reading Police Department.
Okay, great. Been a police officer of the town of North Reading now over 25 years. Grew up in this town and very fortunate to be involved in law enforcement in this town. Very proud to be a police officer. I've been a safety officer in this town for 20 years prior to being the SRO detective. And then that's allowed me to get involved with the schools, with the safety of the school buses, crossing guards, and to work with the schools on that other aspect. And now I get to be more involved with the schools as the resource officer. I look forward to working with the school system and the faculty.
Well, Scott, you mentioned about your role as a safety officer, and I think for me, where I served as the high school principal for a little over 11 years before becoming superintendent in this past October, we had occasion on a number of times to work with each other in your role as the safety officer. And I think you mentioned about that being somewhat of a natural tie-in and kind of a nice prelude to your work as the school resource officer. I would imagine that as the safety officer, that probably gave you occasion to interact with young people, particularly maybe student drivers, and to just be a kind of a visible and familiar face out in the community. I would imagine that's helped a lot in your transition to your new role as the school resource officer. Could you talk maybe a little bit about what some of the pluses might have been from having been the safety officer previously?
Oh, absolutely. That was a nice transition from the safety officer role. And once again, from school bus safety to talking about safety programs within the school, driver education, the new junior operator laws, etc. So it allowed me to work with your teachers from time to time in the past to talk about law-related issues for student drivers, school bus safety, how to visit the schools, how to enter and exit the buses in a safe way, work with the school bus drivers and the teachers. The teachers welcomed me all the time to come in and talk to them anything about traffic-related issues at that time dealing with school safety. So that segues right into being a resource officer, which I get to be able to be more involved in the school system now with educational resources.
I remember three particular subjects where we worked pretty closely together specifically with you, but also with other officers of the police department. I remember safety belt checks. Mm-hmm. Having a little bit of a checkpoint and reminding students of the importance of wearing their seatbelts when they left school for our high school student drivers. I also remember the junior operator license. You mentioned that just a moment ago, but educating both students and parents about the importance of observing that law. And something that has become, I think, probably more a part of a particular, well, probably all of our lives, but particularly with young people, is the reminder that of not to text and drive. And it might be good for the community to just hear from you a little reminder about the dangers associated with that and what the penalties might be for someone of any age driving and texting while doing so.
Yes, the penalties are severe now for rightfully so. The accidents, in my opinion, the accidents become more extreme because of driver distraction. And it's mostly caused by electronic devices, the cell phones, radios, but mostly the cell phones, texting and driving. And we see a lot of accidents where there is no braking or the vehicles just go straight off the road. And due to that distraction of electronic devices, the accidents become more severe. There's more injury. They're driving head on straight off the road. So driving with electronic devices and texting, a distracted driver, is it's on the rise, and it's not that important to be texting. They can wait. I mean, what do we do before the cell phones?
Right.
And so we can just educate the kids more and more on to not use the electronic device, make it more of public awareness. And it's not just the children, it's the parents as well and adults that are also texting and driving. I used to do it, and now I have to constantly remind myself it's not that important. Or pull over, it can wait.
Mm-hmm. It can wait, right. I remember about, I'm going to say maybe about a year and a half or 2 years ago, we had then the district attorney for Middlesex County, Jerry Leone, came to our high school and did a very good program for our junior and senior students, many of whom had their licenses at the time. And I thought the best advice he gave from his whole presentation, which was very, very good, very poignant. And also he asked, just as an aside, he asked a number of students if they would be willing to sign a pledge not to text and drive, and we literally ran out of room on the banner for the number of people willing to sign on. It was really nice to see. But I thought the best piece of advice, because there is that temptation, and I dare say that many of us have been guilty of it at one time or another, but his best advice, I thought, was to put your cell phone on the back seat of the car where you couldn't get at it, and that would take away the temptation to reach for it, because just even answering that quick text with a 1 or 2 word answer really puts so many people at risk. And I thought that was a really kind of a tangible way for him to get the message across to the student drivers that he was speaking with at that time, to just it's that important. Put it out of reach, and you'll be a lot better off for it. So
it can wait. Yeah.
It can wait. I think that's the good message. So Scott, I would imagine that most of us are familiar with the term school resource officer. Probably a lot of folks watching the TV show, we're familiar with the term. But I wonder if it would be helpful for you to provide to folks maybe a little more definition around how you see that role, and how you've been on that job now since around July, am I right, in the summertime?
Yes, exactly.
So, it's been 6 or so months, and how are you seeing the role of school resource officer? What is it when you get up in the morning and you say, okay, in my work today or in my work this week, my role as the school resource officer is to do what? To fill in that blank. How do you envision the role?
I envision the role. It's a nationally accepted program where they put a law enforcement official on the educational campuses. And its many roles is to be a positive law enforcement figure on the school property. What I like now is when I first started with the new school year, all the kids' faces were hesitant. They look at you and why is he here, and is something wrong, is someone in trouble, to a positive role figure. And that's what I like about the student resource officer. It's putting the law enforcement official as a resource to the schools, put them in a positive light. So the students they're happy to see you there, want to see you there, instead of being nervous to seeing a police officer there, to be more approachable. But what I like about the student resource officer now is interacting with the schools, having the kids feel comfortable with you being there. Now it's seeing their faces from being hesitant to smiling, wanting to high five you, and that makes my day. Is kids liking to see me there, and that feels good.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
Our association, School Departments Association with the Police Department, certainly in the coming up on 12 years now that I've worked in North Reading, has been very good. I think back to days long ago when Mike LeBlanc and Joe Thibodeau were working with our students in our schools in a much more informal way, but still a very important way. The DARE program was in existence then. And then I would say probably, maybe just not all that long ago, 5 or 6 years ago, there was a big push to have a school resource officer in North Reading, and that started off with Tom Hatch, and he served in that role for a couple of years, and then came Kevin Donnelly, who did a very nice job as well. And I think, with all due respect to you, I think when Kevin moved on in his career and advanced in the police department, there was I think the minds of some of us, some big shoes to fill.
Absolutely.
But having known you as I have for a number of years, to say that you're a positive law enforcement official working in our schools really, in my opinion, is an understatement. I mean, you have a very, very nice, reasonable way about you, and I know already in just a short period of time that having seen you in our schools and interacting with young people, it truly is, I think, a model for other communities where we have a person that's just in it for all the right reasons, and that's how I view you, as I have viewed others that have served as the school resource officer. I think it's really important, and it's good for our young people to know that the police department isn't always the bad guy and isn't always out to get them in their view, but more importantly can be a support, can be a very helpful resource. And that certainly was true of Kevin and Tom when they were in the role. And I venture to guess, I'm not working as closely with you now as superintendent as I did for a short time as principal, but I know that was a hallmark of the work that you were doing then. Has there been anything since you've come into the role now, again 6 or 7 months or so into it, that and I think it's good to remind people, by the way, that you're working with students at all 5 schools, elementary schools, the 3 elementary schools in the district, the middle school, and our high school. That's a challenge in and of itself. I mean, I would imagine your approach to the different age groups has to be different based on the levels of maturity. Is there anything that's come as a bit of either a surprise or, kind of a nice awakening for you, a realization of something that maybe you were unfamiliar with in our schools that you've come to learn as the school resource officer?
Well, it's an exciting time here because of the new schools, seeing the kids. But far as it's not a surprise to me. This is a great community. I mean, all the students I hear from other officers, other agencies about what goes on in their towns with schools or school-age kids. But far as this is quite a great community to live in, to work in, and to see all the kids. But nothing has come to me as a surprise for the fact that from being the safety officer, knowing most of the kids, growing up in this town, knowing the parents, but it's a very exciting time with this new school and this new environment, and everybody's just nurturing together with this whole new environment, the school system. Far as going to the middle schools, I think it's the only thing that came to me as a surprise is, once again, getting over that, why is he here, glad to seeing me there. And it's great, and you said I'm working at all different levels. Up at the hood school and the little school, that you have to approach the kids in different ways. And they're happy to see you. They always smile and they look at you, and it's great because those schools, I get a secret hand wave now. Most of the kids.
Right? That's great.
Walk into class, I might tell them, give me this secret hand wave, and they do. And
Yeah.
when they do that to me without me doing it to them first, it makes me smile. But as far as the role of the resource officer in the schools, it's not really a surprise. I know there's been a lot going on with the new schools, the transition with the middle school and the high school, and
Yes.
everybody's been great. But just can't wait to get more involved with the law-related educational resource issues to interact with the classrooms more. But as far as that, the kids, the one-on-one walk in the hallways, meeting them in the cafeteria, and even that was a little tough at first. Them say, "Why is he in the cafeteria?" And you'd mentioned Kevin Donnelly. Once again, big shoes to fill, and he did a great job, and he was very well liked. And now they see me there; it's a new face, but not a surprise at all.
So I'm hearing from you there's maybe a lot of validation of things that you might have hoped for or expected you would see, and that's just been reinforced now with your interactions. Is that a fair thing to say?
Very fair to say,
Yeah.
yes. And like I said, this is a great community, and knowing most of the kids from being the safety officer and having some interaction before with the schools and dealing with you and the faculty. And once again, just knowing the majority of the students.
Yeah.
I don't know all their names. I'm terrible with names, but knowing that that I went to school either with their parents or their parents' brothers and sisters, and it's just a great tight-knit community, and I'm proud to be working in this town. And it's the school system it's got great accolades, and
Yeah, it is a nice place to hang out every day. It truly is. Yeah.
But nothing comes as I'm not surprised about working in this environment. It seems like it's a very well-established environment, the way the kids are disciplined, the way everything acts. And we only had 2 incidents I can recall in the beginning of the school year, and other than that, it's been smooth sailing, and it's been a great school year so far.
That's good to hear. That's
Yeah.
good to hear. Let's
Yeah.
hope it continues for
Yes.
quite some time.
Yes.
You talked a little bit just a moment ago about maybe some things you might like to do going forward. And for anybody, all of us, when we take on a new challenge, there's a transitional period, and we try to learn things. And I'm sure you might still be going through that. I'm certainly going through that as the superintendent. I know, Scott, in conversations we've had outside of this interaction, that you have a real desire to get into maybe some classrooms and to work with teachers and some, kind of supplement some educational programming. Can you talk maybe a little bit for the benefit of the community about some ideas, or even one idea that you might have that you haven't quite been able to tackle yet, but you're hoping to do so in the future?
Yeah, hoping to do so in the future. There's safety programs. There's the bullying issues. We only had two bullying issues that I can recall. They haven't had any incidents in. But the first and foremost is I like to get into the drug and alcohol awareness prevention issues. Every kid has a temptation, stuff like that, and just don't want them to do that, fall that one time. So just get a little more education on those type of things. Law-related issues. I'm not saying it's a problem, but just want to get out there and educate them more, and work with his faculty and school staff on just getting the kids a little more awareness of what's happening out there, and help with a little more prevention. Make them
I don't
safe.
think we can ever do enough drug
Exactly,
and
yeah.
alcohol and substance abuse prevention programming, and you and many others public safety personnel from the community have been very involved with efforts to stage our mock accident on a biannual basis. Again, to send a positive message about safety and not abusing alcohol and not driving while under the influence of alcohol. And that's been a hugely successful program for a number of years. And I believe we're due again for the spring of 2016 for our every other year approach,
yes,
so that all students that go through our high school are experiencing that program. And it's just so valuable. And I think the more that someone with practical experience and the background like a police officer has, and anybody in a profession to come into our schools and to speak with students and to work with teachers, it just, the years I've been an educator, and I think it's 28 years now, there's such great value to bringing people out, bringing people into the schools from outside in the community to speak to students and just to lend a real life practical experience to their learning is so valuable. As teachers, we often find ourselves sometimes, preaching, sometimes students they get tired of hearing the same messages from the same people. Mm-hmm. So when we bring someone new in and someone fresh, I think it really lends itself to really sending a very strong message home that's an important one to help our young people just, live a good quality of life. And that's the ultimate goal here, whether it's lecture or it's actual presentation or a dramatic role play like we do with our mock accident has just been so successful. So Scott, as we think about the role of the school resource officer in North Reading continuing, I would be curious to know, do most communities have a school resource officer in your experience? Do you know, is that something that's commonplace, or is it more commonplace recently? Where do we fit in all of that in North Reading?
Once again, it's a nationally accepted program, and more towns are adopting it. It's not, there is a lot of towns that, once again, I mentioned safety officer, and they had DARE officers, which is still, the DARE is phasing out, but a lot of them still have the safety officers. Where now a lot of the towns are going to the resource officer, and you find it in the bigger communities, the ones with the larger school systems have the student resource officer in there. And the student resource officer is not a disciplinarian, but it's, what's the word I'm looking for? There is a positive role figure to make a safe nurturing environment, not to have a presence of a law enforcement officer to deter anything, but for educational resources, counseling, that type of thing.
I mean, inherent in your title is resource. You're a resource to schools and to people in the schools. Is that? I mean, it's really that's such an essential thing. It's people being able to go to you and talk with you about, what would you do with this? How might you handle this? Right? I mean, I think that's how I found. That's the value I found as a principal, particularly with the school resource officer, that you just could go to whoever was in that role and ask them a question about either a real life scenario or something that you maybe wanted to head off, and it was so valuable to have that resource.
And that's the thing, is to work hand in hand with the faculty and administration.
Yeah.
Any law-related issues or counseling issues that might be, deal with the law. But just to have that resource to help the school to be there. Like I said, I can't say enough. I love being in the school system, reaching out to the kids that need that help, or they don't ask for the help, and you can kind of tell that someone might need some direction or help.
I have to tell you, it's very obvious that you're enjoying it. It's been obvious. It's not obvious. It's not only obvious just today. It's been obvious to me since you took on the role in the summer. And I think it's might be nice for the community to know. If I were sitting at home, maybe watching this show, I might wonder, well, how extensive is the interaction? I think it's important for people to know that I know all of the principals, and I have your cell phone number. You have our cell phone numbers. We speak fairly regularly.
Yes, you regularly, yes.
I think you've come at my invitation to speak with the school's leadership team, with all of the administrators and directors of the school district. You did a little presentation for us not that long ago. I think it was for us and for you. I would hope it was a little bit of a check-in, like how did we see things going. I think all reports were it was very positive from all of us and from you, and I think it's just been a very good and successful program. And I'm, on behalf of the school district and the community, really, because we're all working toward the same goals to the benefit of the young people in the community. I can't thank you enough and those that have preceded you as a school resource officer, because there is such proven value to the work that if we can work together to avoid negative interactions by having those kind of earlier positive interactions, that's so much better, because we don't want to be dealing with things, when it's too late. And I think we've shown, I think, in North Reading, and I would imagine in other communities, that the positive working relationship really does have a benefit to all. And
Absolutely.
we're very fortunate. You said it before. We work in a very good and supportive community. There's no question about that. And it's just these kinds of relationships, the interactions that you're having with young people, with parents, with the faculty of the school department, has just been critically important to our success. And I really want to take a moment to publicly and personally thank you for the work that you've done so far, and that I know you're going to continue to do in the future. And it just, it cannot be overstated how valuable that work has been.
Well, thank you.
I have the opportunity to speak with students, and still in my role as the superintendent, and it comes up. It comes up about the school resource officer, and students ask questions, and I think it's good for them to have people available to them like yourself that they can trust, and that relationship is ever evolving. It hasn't been an awfully long time that you've been in the role, but in the short time that you have, I think it's fair to say that you've really established yourself very well, and I can only see that getting better. So,
okay, yeah, the faculty's been tremendous. All the principals, the teachers, the faculty, everybody's been tremendous, and I love that anybody can reach out and talk to me anytime,
Absolutely.
24/7. And thank you for accepting the program and making it work. And it's the SRO program. The school system it's really. I'll tell you, like I said, there was only 2 incidents I can recall at the beginning of the school year, and now it seems to be smooth sailing, and it's a nice.
Those are pretty good statistics.
Yeah,
Let's hope that holds.
It is. And like I said, everything's going great. And to see the kids every single day, the high school kids, and I go to the elementary schools from time to time. But focusing on the high school and the middle school now, the new environment. But it's just great to see how everything seems to be smooth sailing right now.
Good.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
Well, Scott, as we come to a close here, this is an opportunity for you, if a little bit of a public service announcement, if you want to. Is there anything else that maybe I didn't ask you about that you want to get out there as a message to the community and share, or do you feel we've covered enough?
You've covered enough,
Okay.
but the first, once again, just can't elaborate enough. Texting and driving can wait. There's so many young kids now get involved in accidents. Even if you don't have your driver's license as of yet, remind your parents. It can wait. Don't you see them driving? Mom, we don't want to get into an accident. That type of thing. But other than that, it's been a great school year so far. I'm looking for continued great success in the school system. Working with you and the faculty, it's been an honor, and I love going to work.
Well, Scott, I can't say enough that I'm proud to know you, proud of the work you're doing, and very, very grateful to you for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this brings to our close our show for today. I want to thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you. Scott, thank you for being our guest on Inside NRPS. Thank you.
Thank you.